Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Schaefer, I want to walk through the first part of the bill. Just to kind of start this off. So I want to focus on Article 1, the general provisions of the bill.
Thank you.
So in Section 1.02, subsection 3, says lethal quantities of opioids such as fentanyl are being trafficked into Texas and resulting in the poisoning deaths of thousands of people throughout the country. And you spoke at length about that in your layout, and we all agree that's a huge problem in our state and our country right now. So where does the majority of fentanyl that's smuggled into this country, where is it smuggled through?
It's coming through the southern border.
Where specifically?
Well, I think there's debate about that, Representative Turner. I think you're going to hear some say that most of it comes through the ports of entry, and you're going to say a lot of it comes through in between the ports of entry. But I think in a way it's a distinction without a difference. If you're not applying your law enforcement resources to where it's coming through, it really doesn't matter how it gets here.
Okay, so according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, over 90% of fentanyl comes through ports of entry. Now, your bill doesn't touch ports of entry, right? Because those are federal facilities.
It actually does.
This bill is interfering in a lot of federal areas, but I don't think you're trying to regulate ports of entry, correct?
The bill does have a provision that speaks to enhanced examinations at or near the ports of entry.
Do we have authority at the ports of entry? And I don't know, I'm asking.
I believe
we have jurisdiction?
I believe the Constitution does provide that. You can look at Article 1, Section 10.
We're going to get to Article 1, Section 10.
Yep.
So, but okay, so, but you don't dispute that you might disagree with the data, but CBP data says over 90% of fentanyl comes through ports of entry. That is their data. You would stipulate that that's what they say.
I don't know how they prove a negative, because they don't know. The fentanyl you don't apprehend, the fentanyl you don't catch and don't see, how do they know what's coming in? How do they know the percentage? You really can't. Maybe what they catch. But if you don't know what's coming in the geography between the ports of entry, how can you quantify it?
Well, so let's talk about why that might be true, that it's coming through ports of entry. So do you know who the people are that are actually smuggling the fentanyl into the country are? Do you have a sense of, can you characterize what that group of people, who they are?
I think the cartels engage a number of different persons to smuggle. Certainly the cartels are involved in that. I mean, they control the plazas along the border. And when you're talking significant quantities, that is cartel-directed supply. So the cartels may be paying a truck driver. They're very good at concealing drugs in compartments of vehicles, and all of those things.
Would it surprise you to learn that, according to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, that 86% of those convicted of smuggling fentanyl through U.S. ports of entry are American citizens?
Americans are getting involved in this every day.
Okay, so we know the data says that over 90% of the fentanyl coming in is coming through ports of entry, and of that 90%, 86% is being smuggled in by American citizens.
I don't think there's any doubt that American citizens are not only engaging in smuggling fentanyl, they're engaged in smuggling people and weapons.
Okay. So going to Section 10, Article 1 of the Constitution. That's the same, this is subsection 4, the same section of the bill. It says the state is it's in quotes, I don't know who you're quoting, but the state is, quote, in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. I guess you're quoting the Constitution there. Yes. Is that right? Okay. And so that's Section 10, Article 1 of the United States Constitution. So what are we, you say the state is declaring authority under that section. So what is the authority we're declaring?
It's a self-defense provision of the United States Constitution.
Is that the invasion clause?
Let me read it to you. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. You'll notice my focus on the words imminent danger. When you have tens of thousands of people dying, you are in imminent danger.
Right. So you would agree, though, that section of the Constitution is not what this is about. That's not what the framers were talking about. They were talking about an invasion by a foreign nation.
I disagree. I think that this.
you just read a foreign power. You read those words to me as you were quoting from the.
I have read the context of this, and I believe that there is inherent sovereignty. If you read even Supreme Court precedent, they acknowledge the states as being sovereign. And the states have a sovereign power to defend themselves when they are in imminent danger. And I think this speaks directly to that.
So moving on. So the number of, this is in subsection 8, the number of people unlawfully entering Texas from Mexico at locations other than ports of entry has reached historic levels, and local communities are increasingly overwhelmed. Okay. So I want to ask about that, and Representative Anchia talked some about this earlier. You know, we can look at a line graph of border crossings over the years, over the decades, and there's peaks and valleys. And so if you look at the data in early 2000, the last year of the Clinton administration, we had a record number equal to the peak we've seen in the last year. You saw peaks and valleys throughout the Bush administration. It was actually pretty low throughout the Obama administration, and then multiple peaks again during the Trump administration, and peaks and valleys in the Biden administration. So this is not a new issue, right? This has been
The scale of it is new, and I do have those numbers going all the way back.
How's the scale new?
The scale is significantly higher than in previous years. You go back to just last fiscal year, 2.7 million. The year before that, 1.9 million. Already 1.2 million so far this year. How about in El Paso today? 700 people. Today, one day, 700 people came across the river this afternoon.
So the you said 2.7 million. Did you mean 2.4 million? I think that was the number of the Border Patrol.
I'm reading straight from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection website. Total enforcement actions, fiscal year 2022, 2,766,582.
Okay, and those were documented encounters?
Yes.
Okay.
And that doesn't include the gotaways.
Right. So given that is a large number, I agree. And it's not particularly unique because, again, there have been years in the past where the number has been close to 2.5 million per year.
Well, I don't know when. I don't know that we've, in recent memory, I don't know when it's ever been near that.
But is that not evidence that what Border Patrol is doing is working? Because I guess my question is, so if Border Patrol has a lot of encounters and they're stopping people from entering illegally, unlawfully, and or capturing or detaining them once they're here, is that not a sign of success, or is that a sign of failure?
It's a sign of failure because they are allowing people to illegally enter our country at a scale that we have never seen.
But they stop.
And if you talk to people who live in those communities, they would tell you it's a failure. They would not look at the litter on their streets, at the river, the fence is torn down. Let me finish. They would not look at the effects of what is happening and say the Border Patrol is being successful.
So, but you see what I'm saying? It's, if there's not if arrests aren't high, well, they're not doing their job. Nothing's happening. If arrests are high, oh, it's a failure because they're arresting so many people. So which is it? Is it, do we want a low number of stops, of encounters, or is a high number indicative of an effective border security policy?
The metrics that matter.
Because I think you make the argument either way.
The metrics that matter are the number of people who are crossing illegal and the amount of deadly fentanyl that is coming out.
Right.
Those are the metrics that matter. And if those numbers are not trending down, then we are not succeeding.
Right, but the fentanyl, as we've established, is coming through the ports of entry, largely from American citizens. So that's not in these numbers. That's not where the fentanyl is coming from.
I think you're mistaken. And I don't know how much time.
That's what the data said.
Let me ask you,
All I
when's the
can
last
do is
time
look
you
at
went
the
down there
border
to
patrol
the
data.
border and actually didn't do like a Chamber of Commerce tour, but actually went and spoke to ranchers and spent time talking with local law enforcement?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time on the border.
When's the last time?
So we're going to talk about your bill.
Okay.
And I'm going to get to ask you the questions. I think I don't represent a border community, and last I checked, you don't represent a border community. So we're both talking about a region of the state that neither one of us represents, frankly. And what I'm trying to get to is the data and the facts. And the facts indicate that we know fentanyl is a huge crisis in our country. We have a lot of different strategies we can use to deal with that. I don't think your bill addresses fentanyl at all. That's my problem with your claims about fentanyl.
Hold on, gentlemen. I'm going to ask the crowd to show respect, whether you agree or disagree. But clicking and that is it won't be tolerated in state affairs. And so I think you've all been pretty good, but this is a difference of opinions. And so I'm going to ask everybody, just keep to yourselves. We're going to start the testimony and members. I'm going to let you talk to the representative, but at 10 o'clock, if you're not finished, I'm going to start the testimony. So let's try to give everybody an opportunity to talk here. But
Thank you,
again,
Mr. Chairman.
crowd, please, I know you don't necessarily agree, but let them talk, and let's show respect to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This last question, I want to move on so other members can ask, but my last question, you would agree that this bill is unconstitutional?
No, I believe this bill is constitutional.
Under Arizona versus United States, you don't think this bill is unconstitutional?
I think there's a significant distinction between Arizona v. U.S. and this approach.
Say
I
again?
believe there's a significant distinction.
Between the Supreme Court ruling in that case and what your bill is trying to do?
Yes.
Okay, I disagree with you, but I will yield to other members.
Speaker Guerin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.